Hello there, Alex B here. Today we're gonna take a look at the song Greedy by Tate McRae. I did an orchestral remix, an orchestral mock-up of it, and we're gonna take a look at it in my Logic session. Let's see what it looks like under the hood. Here we go. This is my Logic session for the song Greedy. Let's take a quick listen before we talk about it.
Are you serious? I try, but I can't figure out. I've been next to you all night, I still don't know what you're about. You keep talking, but not much coming out your mouth. Can't you tell that I want you? I say that I don't want myself for the days when we I put you through hell, just know me, yeah. So sure of yourself, baby, don't get greedy. Past my name or how I'm running this room around and that I'm still half your age. Yeah, you looking at me like I'm some sweetest scam. Obvious that you want me, but I see I don't want myself for the days when we I put you through hell, just know me, yeah. So sure of yourself, baby, don't get greedy. That's your money now. I'm just curious, is this for real or just and I can't tell if you love or hate me. Never met someone like that, got me so crazy. Did you know you got that effect? I said, let me check, yeah. I don't want myself for the days when we I put you through hell, just know me, yeah. So sure of yourself, baby, don't get greedy.
There it is. So first things first, the first thing I did when I decided to work on this song was to get the vocals. And what I did was pick up the song from YouTube, and I downloaded the audio, and I used a software called Stem Roller. And this Stem Roller, I'm gonna leave the link here in the description. The cool thing about a Stem Roller is that you can get stems from any song, and it's a free software. It takes a while to process the song, but it's gonna give you every stem, for the instruments, for the vocals, for the drums, the bass, and it works really well. It's AI based, I think, yeah, probably is, and it works really well. So I got the vocals, and this is what the vocals sound like in isolation.
Yes, I try, but I can't figure out. I've been next to you all night, I still don't know what you're about.
So it's a pop song, right? So it's overly processed as it's supposed to be in a pop song. So I got it with all the effects and everything. And what I did was just build the rest of the song around it. Yeah, it's copyrighted material, I know. But since I was gonna publish it on YouTube, YouTube has a way to recognize copyrighted material, and I was expecting a flag or something, but the only thing that happened in reality was that it was banned in Russia because of some copyright issue. But I'm totally fine with it. I knew it was gonna happen. I made a choice to use the original vocals anyway because I thought it was gonna sound good, and this is just the path I took. So I started right after I got the vocals right here. I got the BPM of the song, which is 103 BPM, 103, and I started with this very distinctive sound. That's a very simple arpeggio. So I'm using two sounds here, a glockenspiel and a marimba. They are used in combination here. So this is the marimbas for more body, the glocken for more bright sounds. And here in this group, so I always work with groups in my mixes, in my productions, and I grouped the bells here. Tubular bells are here in this section. Yeah, that's subtle, but it adds an extra something, an extra sparkle to those chord transitions. And it's a very simple song, just like the pop songs of nowadays, and just for chords, nothing crazy going on. What I did here next was use some pads to create a bed for the orchestral thing. So this is something I learned from my friend Steven Battle. So pads really add a little bit of texture, a little bit of bed for the orchestral sounds to work on. So this is what they sound like. So there's a little bit of crispiness there. Yeah, and it gets even crispier here. But in combination with the orchestral sounds, it really adds something cool. And it also adds some cinematic quality to it. Next up here, we have the labs, another group here, in which I have the labs orchestra. I think it's the labs strings. Yeah, labs strings and strings ostinatos. So this is what they sound like in isolation. I love this. So it's the amplified cello quartet tremie. Yeah, it's some tremolo thing. Sounds really good. And these are the ostinatos. I'm using a really cool ostinato sound. It's a contact instrument only for ostinatos. It's the ostinato strings. Yeah, this guy here by Sonokinetic. Yeah, that's the ostinato strings. Beautiful, beautiful. Just love it. All right, let's just move on. Here we have a strings ensemble. So I just disabled it here because I thought it was just too heavy for this part, so I took it away because the ostinatos came in. So putting together an orchestral mock-up like this is a game of tension and release. And so a few elements come in, other elements have to go, have to leave the mix for a while. So this is why I decided to enable these here. So I just took them away, and sometimes I bring it back. So it's all a game of tension and release, as I said, and creating different moments in the mix. So this is what the strings ensemble sound like. I called this BBC strings, but it's actually a patch from Logic called Eden Park. Sounds really good. And this one is another patch from Logic, a stock instrument called Bloomsbury. Just copied over the MIDI and I called them BBC strings, but they're not the BBC strings. Oh yeah, sounds really cool. Next up here is my combination of violin and viola. So here we go. Let's listen to them. Just a top line on top of the ensemble. So let's see. Here we have a combination of piano and harp. This is what they sound like. And I put the piano melody here because I also made a piano melody in case I didn't want to use the vocals. So I put a piano melody here too. But for this mix, I took it away and I kept the vocals there. Yeah, so the piano I used here is my beloved, it's the Noir belt. Yeah, and I'm using the all noises on configuration. Then I tweaked it from there and I just played around with the volumes of the noises a little bit. But this is the Noir belt piano. Beautiful, beautiful. Next up, we have the strings melody, and the melody, this strings melody is playing along with the vocals. This is what it sounds like. Alright, so you can have an idea here. Next up, I brought up some arcade strings. So this is from Output Arcade. I just wanted to add some more flavor to it. So I loaded up a few patches there. And this is what they sound like. Sounds really cool in context. Especially this part here for the, you know, when you start the chorus. So there's this beautiful strings effect here. Yeah, it's almost a little too buried in the mix, but it sounds really cool here. I didn't want to make it too prominent because, you know, I didn't want it to stick out of the mix too much, but it sounds really cool. It adds a little bit of energy to the transition. Next up here, we have the winds. I call them winds. So we have clarinets, trombones, and a brass section. They're all here working together. So I played a little bit with the notes. I played a little bit with creating counter melodies and things that work well together. So this is what they sound like. Yeah, nothing fancy, nothing complicated. And next up here we have some flute arpeggios. So I'm using two flutes here, flutes half notes and flutes with a whole step notes here. So one of them is doing this. And the other one is copying the same pattern from the marimba that we had up there here. Glocken, marimba, and bells. Something similar. Yeah, and in combination. Didn't even play with a penny. It's all in the center. Maybe I should have done something here, but it sounds okay. Now I'm gonna talk about the bass. What I did for the bass is use a combination of this one here, the strings bass from Logic. So it's a Logic patch, just with nothing special here, and a combination with a sine wave bass from Alchemy, another Logic stock instrument. So this is what they sound like. So I just added the synth bass here to bring a little bit more of punch to the sound. So I made a combination of them, and I rendered them all to audio so I could see the waveforms and align them as a way to avoid any kind of phase issues. So this is what they look like, and I aligned them. I did it manually, so I'm a little, you know, I could do better, I know. So it's pretty much aligned. I mean, they're not perfectly aligned because they are different sound sources, but they're aligned for most of the time, and they were a little bit out of phase. And when I aligned them, I really managed to get more energy out of those bass sounds. Here we go, and this is the bass. Only the bass now. There's some good low end there, but with the sine wave, it gets a little bit punchier. With the sine wave, it gets a little bit more body. This is just a sine wave. Now the crunch part comes from the bass, double bass. Sounds really cool, especially considering that it's a stock instrument. So I added some BRAAMS next up here. Yeah, this is really cool. It's really worth mentioning that I was using free contact instrument here. So this is the Free Orchestra, Project Sam Free Orchestra 1. So I haven't updated anything, it's just the one that I first downloaded, and I've heard that there are some updates for this, but I haven't really checked. So this is what it sounds like. I have two sounds here. The BRAAMS low and this other part here. Ominous lows. They're processed, but it sounds good in the context. Next up, we have the brass, and I only bring the brass halfway through the song here because I wanted the brass to add extra energy to special moments around the mix. So for the second chorus, there's some brass parts here, and there's another big brass part for the final chorus and the outro for the end of the song. So this is what the brass sounds like. All Logic stock brass. The final parts of the brass. Going up again. This is the final part. So I did nothing crazy in terms of processing here for this brass. I wanted to keep it, you know, simple and as clean as possible, as to make it really work with your orchestral idea. Well, there's nothing too crazy going on. And here, this is something I called drums, which is a combination of kick, snare, some crash cymbals, reverse crash cymbals, cymbal swells, chimes, and things like that. So this is what the drums sound like for the final parts of the song. Nothing complicated. So I just created this drum pattern here, playing on my MIDI keyboard, and this is what it sounds like. So here we have, in terms of instruments, there's a combination of the Project Sam orchestra, the free orchestra, and Logic stock instruments here. So most of them come from the Project Sam sound, and the chimes come from Logic. And here I have the vocals, and here it is. In terms of mixing, I'm gonna share it all real quick and simple. So all I did was put a combination of this, the Lindell 80 bus, channel bus, in each of the channels of the auxiliary channels of the groups that I created. So right after that, I have an instance of the Lindell 80 channel, which is a Neve inspired channel strip. And here I have some compression, I have some EQ, a little bit of saturation, almost nothing. I'm not going really hard on saturation this time, but I did it all for pretty much every channel here. And I have some reverbs going on. Next up here, some reverbs on auxiliary channels, so they're all buzzed here. And moving on here for the mix bus, pretty simple. I have this tape plugin that I love, which is the soft tube tape, and I'm using this classic 70s 0VU preset. I just think it sounds, punchy and sweet at the same time. It adds a little bit of extra life to the whole mix. Right after that, I have something not really usual for most of the projects that I work with, but for the orchestral sound, to spread around the room. So I wanted to make it sound as if it were a real orchestra playing in the same room together. So I added a little bit of reverb. So this is the soft tube TSAR 1R reverb. So I added it, just something around 15% in a dark mode here in the mix bus. Then what I did was use a match EQ. So why am I using a match EQ here anyway? The thing is that I got a reference track, an orchestral track that I really liked the sound of, and I used it as a reference for sounds. So it's a really cool Logic stock plugin, this one. So what I did was load the reference track here in the reference part. So I did it. Then I had Logic learn the EQ curve of my own mix. Then I had it match it here. So it subtracted a few lows here, added a few low mids here, and so this is the curve it came up with. Cut some of the highs, and I matched it to 90%, so you can play with it if you don't like it the way it comes, just comes out of the box here after you match it. So I thought 90% was okay, got me closer to what the reference sounded like. Then after that, I'm using my good old Ozone 10 here. And what I did, I know some people don't like it, but I do. I think it's a time saver anyway. So I used this auto thing here. So it learned my song and it made some suggestions as to what it should sound like in a master. So I enabled the EQ because I'm already using the match EQ here. So I'm not using Ozone's EQ this time. I'm using the imager to narrow down a little bit on the stereo image because I was getting some phase issues. It happens a lot every time I work with orchestral music because we have lots of microphones recording the orchestras, and even though I'm using sample libraries, those sounds have been recorded somewhere, right? Most of them. And they sometimes create phase issues. So the whole mix was a little bit too wide. So we narrowed it down a little bit. made it a little bit less stereo, and we got a good results in terms of minimizing phase issues. Then we have a dynamic EQ here, dynamic EQ just working on these regions, and a maximizer with a ceiling of -1 dB, and it's barely doing anything. It's just taking care of the volume a little bit and taking care of the limit. So in terms of the thing that I mentioned with the phase issues, so narrowing down the mix really helped. I know I should have gone to each channel and done it separately, but I just thought Ozone gave me a very nice tool to do it quickly. So why not use it if it's working and if it sounds good, right? So let's see what the phase looks like here, the correlation. It's all in the green. Let's get to a busier part. So if it's in the green, it's all good. So let's hear it in mono, where phase issues really show up. So you can hear everything here in mono. So I used to struggle a lot with phase issues back in the day when I started mixing, but now after some experience, after some practice and studying really hard, I really learned how to manage that. And most importantly, I understand the kind of problems that you get when you don't take care of it properly. Especially for us media composers, we make music that will be listened to or heard only, right? People don't really listen to media, to music, and they're watching video material. They're not there for the music, and we have to keep that in mind. And we have to keep in mind that our music is going to be heard on a wide range of different sound systems, and most of them are not good, and quite a big number of them are playing our music in mono. So we have to make sure that everything will be heard in a mono system. That was my breakdown of the song Greedy by Tate McRae, and that was the orchestral remix that I made of it. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.